advice to take Deebo Samuel or A.J. Brown ahead of N'Keal Harry. Patriots took Harry, who has only scored 4 touchdowns in his 2 years in the league, while Samuel and Brown have combined for 28 in the same time span. So, Shannon, how bad does this make Bill Belichick look?
It'll make him look bad. Skip, how many owners you think would take? Well, you know what? My head coach, who's my general manager, hadn't drafted well, but he got me 6 Super Bowls. Tell me what you think the 31 owners would say. You think they would take that? If their head coach, which is the general manager, doesn't draft well, but in 21 years, he's presented me 6 Super Bowls. He's led me to 9 Super Bowl appearances. You think the 31 owners, you think Jerry Jones would take that, Skip? Everybody's taking that. Skip, this is not unique to Coach Belichick. It's being reported right now that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch differ on the quarterbacks that they should take. I believe if the coach has any say, the coach should have the say on who they take. Skip, let me ask you a question. You know Gil Brandt. I know Gil. Been on Gil's radio show. Every time I go back to the Hall of Fame, I speak to Gil. So I know Gil. Skip, Gil from 1960 until Tom Landry left, he was the general manager. So all those players, the Bob Lillies, the Randy Whites, the Ed Toots, all those guys, he drafted them. Do you think anybody knows what Gil Brandt's record is? But they know what Tom Landry's record is. Do you think they know what Ozzie Newsom's record is? But they know what Brian Billick and Harbaugh's record is. What I'm saying is, Skip, is that goes to them. If he's going to have to coach him, allow him to say, you know what, I understand you like that guy, but I believe for my system and what I'm doing, he would be better. Because, Skip, at the end of the day, everybody, and what is everybody? Everybody can't play here. You hear that from every player, Skip, every player that's ever come out of New England say it's not for everybody. And it's not. Somebody might be immensely talented, but how well is he going to take criticism? How well is he going to take structure? How well is he going to take discipline? So you have to factor that in. I have no problem with Coach Belichick foregoing what the scouts said. It's hard for me to believe that they say the Cowboys were the first to start really scouting players and get them the standardized tests and all that other stuff, Skip. So it's hard for me to believe in the 50-plus, 60-plus years that players have been scouted, that the head coach and the general manager and scouts have differed on a player. And the coach says, I want that guy, and they select that guy. That's what it seems to me this article wants you to believe, that Coach Belichick is the only guy that's ever done that. Well, whatever he's doing, granted, his receivers, drafted receiver, Skip, is horrible. It's the worst ever. It might be the worst in the history of the game. Because you look at Chad Jackson from Florida, you look at the guys he got, Skip, but now he'll get somebody else receiver. He get Wes Welker and Danny Amendola and Randy Moss and work miracles with them. Julian Edelman. You notice I ain't put Gronk in there because Gronk is an all-time great. But, Skip, I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem. Mr. Kraft, free agency came the year before you bought the team in '94. You spent one time, excessive in free agency. And you got 6 Super Bowls to show for it. I don't know if I'd be complaining at this point. I wouldn't.
Okay. You have forced me to start where you started because you brought up Gil Brandt and the Dallas Cowboys. I wrote a whole book about this, and I think you don't quite grasp what happened with Gil Brandt. He had final say over the draft every year because Tom Landry wanted nothing to do with the draft because he traveled with the Billy Graham crusade in the offseason, and he just didn't want to put any of the time into the drafting that Gil put in. So through the 1970s, to your point, Gil Brandt was the draft master. He made Tom Landry, and then he broke Tom Landry with his drafts of the 80s. Why did he score in the 1970s? Because most teams were drafting out of Street and Smith magazine. Oh, that's a good college kid. We should take him. Gil Brandt knew everybody. He knew the trainers. He knew the secretaries. He knew the ball boys at remote college campuses in Langston, Oklahoma, where Thomas Hollywood Henderson was playing college football. And he knew people there who told told him, hey, this kid can fly and weighs 220, and he can run like nobody you've seen before.
He was a linebacker that ran back kickoffs. They put him on the kickoff team skill.
So they continued to outdraft everybody through the 70s, and they had the most talent, and they won a whole bunch of football games, and they started winning Super Bowls.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Gil tried to live up to his reputation as the draft master, and he started to reach farther and reach farther and reach farther for Rod Hill, and it just was swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss. And finally, by 1988, they were a terrible football team.
And all the greats that he had drafted in the 70s, Skip, had aged out.
Okay.
The Randy Whites and the Duttons and all those guys were.
So Tom Landry was a beneficiary of Gil Brandt, and then he was a victim of Gil Brandt. Okay, very different situation than this.
Right, but I'm saying, Skip, if the coach had, he has final say. Kyle Shanahan has final say. And so basically what you're saying is that Tom Landry didn't want any say. So he's like, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want, go do it. But that's not how he operates. That's not how Kyle Shanahan. Like, I believe Andy Reid. And that was Andy Reid.
Okay, so I've told you many times how I feel about Bill Belichick getting to buy the groceries as well as cook the dinner.
Right.
Well, he bought a lot of bad groceries, a lot of spoiled meat and spoiled vegetables, and he got away with it because Tom Brady was the ultimate deodorant to me. It just didn't matter after a while exactly who you swung and missed on because Brady would make it right. He was a great leader and obviously a great clutch playmaker. And so just the system in place and Belichick's ability to coach defense and actually do a lot with a little on defense with a bunch of cogs that didn't really even fit or belong in the league. He brought them together, and they had very good defenses. Not great ones, except for the early one, the one that beat the Rams in the first Super Bowl. But after that, they were always very good. You always say they're top, 10 defenses. And I give you that because he is a great defensive coordinator. I do not think he is a great team builder. And it finally caught up the first year that Tom was gone. It's like, Cam can't overcome that, and Brady's down in Tampa Bay saying, I told you.
Well, Skip, maybe he doesn't build the team like you would want people to build a team is through the draft.
Okay.
But if you look at the guys that he's gone out and gotten free agency, and they don't do well at their particular, the Kyle Van Noys, Randy Moss had run his course in Oakland, and you look at Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, and a lot of these other guys, Skip, they don't have a level of success where they were.
That is true.
Now, Randy Moss was a Hall of Famer before he got to New England.
No doubt.
we might need to take him off the table. But you look at some of the other guys, Skip, that he was able to bring in and get major contributions from.
Okay. Here's the key stat, though, when it comes to Belichick's drafts. Since 2013, he has drafted only 2 Pro Bowl players.
One's a punter.
And that's second worst to any team in the league except for the Bungles, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
So second worst on Pro Bowlers. And then I just skimmed down the list and just a few quick examples. So last year he drafted Kyle Duggar in the second round. And he missed Antoine Winfield Jr., who I told you should have been Defensive Player of the Year, a Rookie of the Year.
Right.
And then we go back to the N'Keal Harry draft that we just talked, that Jenny talked about. He misses on A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and I'll throw in Mecole Hardman. Well, obviously.
And Debo. Wasn't Debo?
Yeah. And Debo's. You're going down the draft into third round.
Right.
Okay, 2018, he takes Isaiah Wynn, which is fine, but Sony Michel, but he leaves Nick Chubb on the table. Well, okay, and he leaves Lamar Jackson for what it's worth. I don't think he would have drafted Lamar.
I don't either.
But whatever. Then Cyrus Jones in 2016 in the second round, and he misses on James Bradbury and Kendall Fuller, who both turn into really good football, especially James Bradbury. He is a Pro Bowl cornerback.
And Fuller went to the Pro Bowl.
And he did. Now he's
in Denver.
In Denver. And all of a sudden, Denver just might have the best secondary in football.
Yep.
Okay, then back to 2014, Dominic Easley over my man DeMarcus Lawrence. And then Aaron Dobson back in 2013 over Keenan Allen. You're just swinging, missing.
Right.
You're missing obvious Pro Bowl players that are coming right after the one you picked.
Well, see, the thing that makes Coach Belichick is that he takes the lesser guys. See, Skip, if he had that, I don't know if we'll give him that level of talent, credit, if he had an Aaron Donald, or if he had with the year he had Darrelle Reeves, we don't give guys credit for coaching that level of that greatness. He take guys, like you said, they're cogs, and he fits them all together, and it works.
And it works.
He's never had an Aaron Donald. The best defensive player that he's had the last decade is Chandler Jones, and he traded him.
He did.
He traded him.
Yep. Okay.
One of his better linemen that he had, Richard Seymour, he traded him. So
Yep.
I think that's a part of it, Skip, is that you're like, nobody is above my system. I can take anybody, put him in my system. That's how he believes, Skip. That's what he believes.
I got it. And he's been so great for so long that now he's come to the point that it is Gil Brandt-like. And I'm glad you brought up Gil Brandt, because after a while, you need to repolish your genius by saying, hey, everybody, watch this.
Right.
I'll take